All right, y'all. Welcome back to Building a Fighter. My name is Dr. Austin Shane, sports chiropractor in Scottsdale, Arizona. With me, as always, badass strength coach in Denver, Colorado, Alex Friedman. Today, we got a guest. I'm fucking pumped for this one. This is going to be a good one talking about the mental performance side of things. We have Micah Schnurstein.
Nailed it.
There it is.
Yeah. Let's go. We have Micah on the podcast. He's on the sports psych, and the mental performance side of everything over at the PI. And Micah, for the people at home, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'll start. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been doing this for over 8 years now. I am one half of the sports psychology department over at the Performance Institute. I do it with my partner, Heather Tenpin. She's dope in her right mind. Yeah, she is a hostage negotiator. She works for Homeland Security. Yeah, she does a whole bunch of crazy stuff.
She's a badass.
Yeah,
huh?
she's a badass. She's no doubt a badass, right? And her and I make up that sports psychology department over at the PI. We also do Team USA boxing, and we have our private practice down here where we're just all about performance. For me, right, the way that I got into this, and we were kind of mentioning this just a minute ago. I played professional baseball for the White Sox for 8 years. And when I played for them, that's how I started realizing I struggled with anxiety and specifically performance anxiety, right? So I got drafted in the 7th round right out of high school and balled out right away. I was the number 1 prospect in the league that I was in. And immediately, right, as soon as I finished that league, they sent me up. And one of my first at-bats was against Randy Johnson. And I love to talk to everybody about,
damn.
That's it, man. Like, I just always dominated. And then you walk up there and you see the unit. And it's like, damn, you destroyed a bird with a base. Like, nobody even knows where that bird is to this day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
That's my first at-bat. So I go up there and I all of a sudden just felt my hands start to shake and my knees start to shake. And I didn't know what to do because that had never happened to me before. And all of a sudden my thoughts just went to, holy shit, who can see this? Can Ozzie Guillen, my manager, see this right now? And if he sees this, like, what's going to happen? Am I about to get cut? Like, what are people going to say about me if they take baseball away from me? Like, what am I? What am I even going to be? Like, where am I going to work? What am I going to do for money? How am I going to support my family? I'm going to end up being homeless, living in a box, right? So my first that's it, man. I catastrophized all the way to being homeless, right? I'm sitting up there thinking about all those things. And I tell everybody, like, you don't even have to ask how I did. He could have rolled the ball on the ground 3 times. It was 3 quick swings. I struck out real quick and started contemplating life. Like, what just happened to me right there? And then, holy shit, I got to go do that again, right? In like 2 innings, right? And that's where it kind of started for me of like really struggling on the mental side. So after it's done, they send me right back down and I'm fine in the minors. You leave me alone. Next thing I know, I'm hitting 30 home runs a year. And then the same thing happens. You bring me right back up. And I just didn't know what to do, man. There wasn't a lot. And this was back in 2002 to 09. So there wasn't a lot of talk still with like the mental side of the game and support that we could actually access. So I eventually did get released after my run was over. And I love talking about that part because that's where I met my wife, who's a psychologist. And she started explaining to me, right, like what was happening. And I tell her all the time, like, you were the best person in the world, but where the hell were you when I was 17 and I needed this shit, right? Like, I'd still be playing ball.
Come on, man.
That's it, man. I'd still be going right now. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
And that's the thing, man. So she's the one that educated me, started encouraging me to go down this road. And that's where I went to school for all this stuff. And bam. Here we are now.
Here we are.
Yeah. Man, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, if you stay in the sport long enough, you stay any sport of playing competitive athletics at any time, who doesn't experience some type of performance anxiety, right? Like how widespread is it, right? Does everybody suffer from that? Like you tell me.
Yeah. Well, the truth is all humans, right, have almost a standard way that a situation is going to go for them, where you're going to notice, right, the what ifs, the worst case scenarios, and you're going to dwell on the past for situations that you've been in that are similar, right, which makes it super difficult for us at times to actually be present and engaged in the shit that we can control. So I would tell you that everybody experiences those thoughts and those feelings. Where it gets different is how long people stay fused to those thoughts, right? Or the background you have and skills that you can use. That's the thing that makes all the difference to letting go of the unhelpful stuff and getting engaged in places that are.
Yeah.
Okay. When you were so after going through school and talking to your wife and everything, what were some things that I guess like key factors you could pick up that you were experiencing on the field that you
Oh
were
yeah.
able to like that were like key points? You're like, oh, I would have fixed this, or I guess like
Oh
give
yeah.
me like three things you'd fix immediately back when you were an athlete.
Oh yeah, let's go. I give you 300 things I would fix, right? That's it's immediately where my brain where it go,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
That negativity bias. First, I guess I would just start with that, right? Of education of the brain and how the brain works, right? I wish I would have known that because that would have changed everything. My big stuff with anxiety is it's just the future and the what ifs, right? I spent
Yeah.
so much time for me thinking about holy shit, what's going to happen when they call me up again? I'm not going to be able to do this, right? And I just
Yeah.
wasn't present. I just wasn't engaged in what I could do, right? I didn't know any skills, and that would have been the other thing. Like that's what I love doing the most is actually getting on the field with somebody and showing them where they can use their skill set to be able to reset and get back to engagement. So
Yeah.
already
Okay.
right away, I would have learned the shit I needed to actually be present. I would have been way better at catching myself catastrophizing in the future, right? And just had some kindness for myself for how the brain works, because that's the other thing. Our brains are super negative, right? And that's all it
Yes.
does is get stuck on the negative that comes. That's all baseball is specifically, right? Is a sport of failure, right? Like if I would have known those skills to have some flexibility, that would have changed everything.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely, man. And I think baseball and MMA can be compared in an extent as in you're an individual out there doing your thing, right? When you're up to bat, you're the only person up to bat. It's up
It's
to you to
me.
hit the ball.
Yeah.
When you're in the octagon, you're the only person fighting another person, right? And so I think that what type of, I guess, added pressure does that send? Or like, I guess, is that a specific component that you factor in when we're working on like sports psychology? Or I guess, how does that differentiate your approach?
Yeah, so it's all going to be based on the individual, right? So
Yeah.
if that's the way that they start to focus, like holy shit, it's me on an island right now, and I'm the only one out here. That'll be right. As we go, I can talk to you about some of these skills, but it'll be something
Yeah.
that we try to
Please
let
do.
go of, right? That we
Yeah.
actually right drop the rope on and reset and focus on things that you can control in that moment. So for me, that's a very standard one. And it's all just going to be based on the individual who comes in and says, yo, I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling all this pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Austin.
I was gonna go. It's crazy too to see people that have worked on the mental side of things and have not
Yeah.
worked on the mental side of things. Like at my facility, like I'm mostly the MMA guy at my facility, but it's our thing is like it's a lot of baseball, right? So you can imagine in Scottsdale, all the
Oh,
guys they
yeah.
come down
That's
here
a,
2 months
yeah.
early and they stay out here, right? Yeah, you've been down here. So like it's crazy seeing the guys that come in and say they're at batting practice, right? And the guys that I know that have worked with a mental coach, they are able to shake it off a little bit faster, right? They might, and then I saw a dude who's an all star, like straight up all star. He went out there, had four bad, not even at bats, four bad swings in a row. He took his gloves off, dropped his bat, and walked out of the cage,
I
and he
see it
still
all
had
the
like
time.
45 minutes of cage time left. And then you'll see guys that are like double A, but they've been working through everything. And and it's because I've talked to them, so I know, and they are able to reset themselves, set their breath, and go back out there. They get over that hump. And then the next three swings are straight fucking money. And they
Let's
go
go.
right back at the pitcher. So it's cool to see like how it actually fucking works. Because
This is it. Once you know it, dude, it pays such dividends, right, within your sport. And I'll also throw this at you, right? I am huge on reminding people that they are way more than just the sport they play. So they can take that
Man.
same skill set
Preach,
and
man.
bring that shit in. You know what I'm saying? Bring that shit into their
Preach.
human life because we need that, and that makes us a better fighter or a baseball player, and vice versa. So even though like my goal is to help you within the sport, I'm also going to show you how to take that shit outside, right? And start finding flow with your human values as well.
Dude, yeah, and I can't tell you how many people or how many former wrestlers that I've talked to that have that identity crisis, right? Like when you
Yeah.
get to be at an elite level of a sport, and like I think MMA and wrestling can be even more so tied in because it's so much of your identity, right?
Yeah.
And I guess, and in baseball that way too, like that is your identity. Like that's something I went through when I was done wrestling. That's 100% probably something you went through when you were in
Facts,
baseball,
man.
right? I think that's such a big life change, right? And so I think that's a huge component of what you're saying is like you're a quality human being, period. And now let's
Yeah.
add some of these tools that we use in your daily life and in your sports life, right? That's
Let's go.
great.
Yes.
So if you're good for us, let's hear them. Let's get into the kind of nitty gritty here. What are some of your favorite like tools, quote unquote, or maybe you got a favorite list or a top 10 or whatever?
There are some good ones, man. There are some good ones. So the beginning ones that I love is just the education piece, because a lot of people don't even understand how the brain works or what it's even supposed to be doing, right? That negativity bias, they wonder why they could have, like, if I'm talking to some of my fighters, right? They could have 5 rounds of sparring where they kill it for 4 and one just doesn't go their way and they can't get off the one round. Well, what about the 4 that you crushed? You know what I'm saying? Your brain's actually working perfectly when you get stuck on just noticing that because of that negativity bias, right? I always get people to imagine you got this bulletproof vest, right? That's just shooting away all the positive, and if it's negative, hell yeah, man. Let me focus on that for a while. Bring that shit in right here, right? I want some of that, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing that I am huge on is evidence-based practices, right? Like, I want my athletes to get the best stuff because, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen this too. There are a lot of people out there that are doing things, right, just from the hip, just trying to throw shit at you and say, hey, this is going to make you feel better. Or they're doing it for the wrong reasons, where they just want to self-promote, right, and do some of the stuff that goes along those lines. And not for us, man. Not especially at the PI too. We want every single athlete that comes through there to get the best evidence-based practices. So that's where all of the stuff I'm about to say comes from. It's not my thought, none of my stuff, just a lot of people that are way smarter than me. This is just one athlete regurgitating it to a couple others, right? That's all that's happening right now.
Hell yeah. I'm here for it.
So what I love, right? There's a guy and his name's Russ Harris. So I'm all about acceptance and commitment therapy. It teaches psychological flexibility, right? Which is your ability to be with any thought or feeling and yet reset and travel towards the values, right, that are most important to you, right? And we can imagine how impactful that's going to be, right? Whether it's performance or just life. So Russ Harris, man, when we're sitting here talking about some of these negative thoughts, he gets you to think about them as radio stations, right? And I love it. Everybody loves this concept right here. We all have like these preset negative radio stations that we love to tune into, right? And as soon as I tell them to, you're going to be going through your brain like, oh yeah, I do go to that one. Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, right here, right here.
You know There we go, right? Okay, so the 3 that I get people thinking about the most. The first one, it's called triple F, right? And triple F stands for fears, flaws, and failures, right? Our fears, flaws, and failures. We love to tune into that shit. That's probably my number 1, right? That I like to go to as I'm sitting here. That's it, man. Noticing my fears, right? And everything associated with it. And I love breaking down triple F too, so people can see what's going on. So fears, man, that's going to be associated with our future. That's our what ifs, man. That first at bat I had against Randy Johnson, I did a very classic thing called catastrophizing, where we find the worst case scenarios out of a situation, right? My brain is trying to keep me safe from becoming homeless, and yet none of that shit's going to happen, right? Because thoughts can just be thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to remember that sometimes. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean that shit's true, man. Thoughts can just be thoughts. So when I'm talking fears, that's my future, that's my what ifs, that's my catastrophic thoughts. When I'm going backwards, right? That's my flaws and that's my failures. That's associated to the past, right? That's noticing a game that I did poorly, a moment where I was embarrassed, a bad sparring round, right? A tournament didn't go my way, whatever it is. Now I'm going to look at my flaws. Now I'm going to look at my failures, right? And that's associated with low mood, right? If I stay there long enough and I dwell and I can't get off that stuff, that's how I'm going to start vaulting into depression, right? This side is anxiety over here, my what ifs, the future, right? When I'm in the past, that's low mood. And if you noticed, if I'm in the past and I'm in the future, the one place I'm not is when?
The
present.
Let's go. Where I can control things, right? Where I can actually engage with stuff that's going to line up with my values. You are not wrong when you notice your brain doing this shit. It's how quick can you recognize what's going on and use some of these skills to reset on something that is a value. Like homeboy, you were talking about after 4 swings where he took off his gloves and just left. That was dwelling on the past of the 4 swings, right? And wondering what people are saying about him. The only place he's not is engaged with what he needs to do and start having some solid contact, just like your minor league guys that you were mentioning before, right? Fears, flaws, and failures, dude. I love that one right there. I love getting people right to be aware of it. Okay.
I don't know if anybody's ever told you, you're pretty fucking good at this.
Yeah, this is money, bro. Yeah, I'm sitting here I'm using that next week with my wrestling team. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Use it, dude. Use it. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you. I think I'll be honest, right? Like, I'm just an athlete, man. I'm a dude talking to other dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to connect with my athletes to help
I
them
say the
get the
same
stuff.
shit. I tell
That's
everybody,
it.
I'm more of a fighter than a fucking doctor anyways. Like,
You know
why?
what I'm saying? Exactly. The way I connect with people and people that, right, other people have super hard times with building relationships. Like, what are you talking about, man? Just go out here, be an athlete, have a conversation. Let's
hell
fucking
yeah.
go. Let's get our
100%.
shit right. So that part I love. So I appreciate those kind words, man. I appreciate those kind words. Okay, radio station number 2. Comparison, right? We love to sit there and compare ourselves, right? You already know it, to other
Mm-hmm.
people on our team, other people in the gym, other people around us, employees, whatever it is. And we compare ourselves more to ourselves at previous times where we thought we did shit better, right? Like we're huge on that one. We are huge on that one. And then notice what happens, right? Like, I'll stay within the fighter reference right here. Maybe I had a bad round of sparring, right? And then you come to me and I'm just dwelling on, right, what just happened right there. And I'm comparing it to last week where I felt like I did all these wonderful things, right? So clearly I'm not as good, and now recognize what happened. I went from comparison and I said, yo, I'm done with this station. Let me click on that first preset. Let me go to Triple F now and let me notice my flaws and my failures, because I'm obviously a piece of shit, right? And here we go. Now I just start going right down this circle, and it becomes a challenge for me to get off of some of those stations. So comparison is a massive one that we are watching out for, especially when we hold on to it too long and it takes us down that road, right? So there's our second one I always challenge people with right out the gate. And then the third one, right, the station of perfectionism. That shit doesn't exist, man. I will literally sit here and tell every single person, you're fucked if you try to be perfect, man. Because that doesn't exist. You're just going to head right down those radio stations, because the moment you're not perfect, you're going to compare yourself to a time where you thought you were. And then, boom, I'm going to switch right back over to flaws and failures. And here I go, right? Here is my cycle as I start going down that road. Everyone I talk to, I will pound this into them. We are not trying to be perfect. We are trying to be the consistent dogs that we are. And when you figure out how to do that, you will get closer to perfect than actually trying to be perfect. You need to get off that shit because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, I can see immediately how that applies into a fight camp too, right? So like it happens all the time. It's you're 4 weeks out, let's say 3 weeks out from the fight. You only have, if you're sparring twice a week, so you probably got 5 to 6 spars left. You get to your Tuesday spar or your Wednesday spar is fucking great. It's money. And then you go full spar on Friday, Saturday, and you feel like shit. And you immediately start thinking you're the worst fighter ever. I got to pull from this fight. Maybe you grab your fucking hamstring or your knee. You're like, oh, so there's an injury. It's psychosomatic pain going on. And you're like, well,
let's go.
Well, and then you start catastrophizing. Then you start going to the failures, and you move to the next radio station.
Did you
it happens.
It? Yeah.
It happens in every fucking fight camp I've ever been a part of. And if guys had so outside of just understanding the education, well, and I'm sure we're getting to it next, outside of understanding the education side of things, what do they do?
There you go. Right. And that's the challenge first. Before you can use the skills, you got to understand what's happening to you in the first place, or how are you going to know where to use the skills? Right. It's 100%. The first thing I'm going to get these guys to start to think about. Right. And I love how you were catching, right, some of those thoughts that happen in camp. Right. I was trying to be perfect, but now I'm dwelling. Do I need to pull out of this fight? There's catastrophizing, right? Is that not the worst case scenario, right? And then here we are. I'm in that moment, I'm literally everywhere but working the process of improvement and confidence by noticing, what did I do well? What am I going to improve on? Reset, let's engage, and let's go do that shit again, right? Like that is the place. And when we are taking it one moment at a time, we get to such a better place. Like if we were 3 weeks out right there, I'm literally talking to a fighter about, of course your fight date's important, right? Like that is the most important date. I don't give a fuck about that date right now. That's 3 weeks away. I want to know what we're talking about right now. What are we going to do in this moment that's going to put you in the best place to perform come 3 weeks from now, right? And that helps you kind of slow it down, right? Make things a lot smaller and just focus on one step at a time where your optimal performance just starts to improve.
Yeah. I think I really want to get, like I said, where Austin's going is like, what do you do from there? But I think the bigger question is like, I think when somebody gets in front of you, Micah, they're game for this, right? I get in front of you. It's like, okay, let's analyze my thoughts. Let's talk about it. Right. Where's your first line defense, right? Is somebody that going to tell you like, hey, this is a problem. Let's address your thoughts. Or are they going to have, a coach that's like, stop being a pussy. right? Like I think that's a reality of life that we have to say is like, okay, how can we start to address this problem or even recognize or be aware of it? Right. Like, I
Yeah.
think that, and that's probably the biggest question that you have, right? Is try and break down that stigma and get people to come see you, period. But like, I guess what's some of the,
How
like
do you jump the hurdle?
yeah, how do you
Right.
know? It's like, I need to go talk to somebody versus just like, all right, I had an off day, or like, I don't need to
Yeah.
go talk to somebody, right?
Yeah. So one, we're breaking the stigma by doing what we're doing right now. Just having some of
Yeah.
these conversations, right? That part is dope right
Yeah.
there. For actually going out and talking to somebody. Now, it's very interesting with this because one, you have to come to me to truly access the source. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
referral process, you need to come to me. I won't go to you because of the bandwidth, right? There's 770, however many athletes there are. I wish I could sit here and engage with every single one of them, right? But it won't happen that way. So
Right.
as they start coming in, and that's where we had to start with this thing when you were referencing that presentation that we did in 2019, right? Like after
Yeah.
I first came in and I started right there, I had 3 fighters and that was it because nobody knew what was going to happen or what this was going to look like. You know what I'm saying? We selected
Yeah.
like 3 people. I started teaching them the skills and I think now I'm over like 200. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy how it's just blown up in 4 years, right? All
Mm-hmm.
from fighters' mouths, right? All from
Yeah.
when you come into the PI and you hear about what this service possibly could be, and then they come in and they access it, and then we just
Mm-hmm.
start to go from there. You know what I'm saying? So
Gotcha. Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
part has been really nice to watch it kind of unfold. Now there's lots of people I would love to reach out to, and I don't because I don't want to impact right how they feel about mental health and mental performance. You know what I'm saying? You've
Yeah.
got to be semi ready to come in, or at least somewhere where I can throw a pitch at you, right? And then you can make your decision from that. So that's how
Right.
the referral source kind of comes in. They come to me.
Gotcha.
A secondary but similar question, because it's not always the
Yeah,
fighters that need to get convinced, or not even convinced, just shown the light is really what this is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
How do you show the light to
Coaches.
the coaches? Because
yes,
you know as well as I do, that is a massive hurdle in any side outside of the skill coaching, right? It's getting the whole team
absolutely.
on board, not just the individual.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's the same thing, and you were kind of talking about it before, Alex, right? Of that
Mm-hmm.
kind of idea. Just don't be a bitch, man. Like that's what it
Yeah.
was for me in baseball, right? Like coach
Yeah.
Yeah.
wise and everything else, like fucking figure your shit out, right? And
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
way. As this has been around more and more, we've started to have more and more coaches coming in, right? And wanting to learn how to do the skill set and like things they can say along with referring their individual fighters to us. You know what I'm saying? So that part has
Mm-hmm.
gotten so much better for us right there through the education piece. But that the coaches, I would say, I think that's not fair to say. In my experience, they are a little more behind the athlete in wanting to access this skill, right? I've still seen a lot of old school coaches that are just, right, like, just
Yeah.
fucking deal with that shit, man, and let's fucking go.
Yeah. Stuff it way down low.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. What are we
Tough.
talking about?
Tough.
Feelings?
It's
What is
tough.
it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Moving back, let's backpedal just a little bit. Moving back to skills, I think is what we were talking about. And skills, if you hit the radio stations and now you recognize, you understand, what are our main skills for getting past the radio station outside of just tune them out?
Let's talk about it. So there is one skill. So the progression of this, right? Like as I'm recognizing those negative radio stations or those unhelpful thoughts, right? That's where this idea of the rope comes into play, right? And the way
Okay.
that I like to set up the rope, right, is I just want you to imagine like a wide bottomless pit, right? And
Yep.
on one side of that pit, it's you with all of the things that you value, right? All of the shit that's important to you, all the stuff that you want to focus on, it's literally right there on your side of the pit, right? Then on the other side of the pit, right? That's where I get him to imagine it's me, right? But not me, like me as this monster that contains all of those negative radio stations and all of the feelings that are attached to those negative radio stations that pop up, right? That's me on the other side of the pit. Now I can't get to you because there's a big white ass bottomless pit in between us, right? But what I do have, I should have grabbed it, is this wonderful rope. I use like a jump rope, right? And it works perfectly for me. So what I love to do with this rope is I love to take it and I love to toss it all the way across the pit to you over there. And you guys love to catch that thing and grab it. And now the next thing you know, you and I are sitting here in this massive tug of war, right? Here we are struggling with these thoughts that are on the other side of this pit. You want to turn around and engage with the stuff that's important to you over there, right? But the moment that you turn your head, boom, I'm going to grab you and I'm going to pull your ass back over here to focus on me. Because if you don't focus on me in that moment, I'm going to drag you into that bottomless pit. And if you follow the bottomless pit, what happens to you?
You die.
That's the exact answer right there. Right? No, you are not trying to let me drag your ass into this pit right here. So, right, that's what's going on. And I get people in that exact situation. And then I ask them, what do you do here? Like, how do you handle this situation to start changing your relationship to that monster that's on the other side of the pit? And the answer is what?
Let go of the rope.
Let go of the rope.
My guy, man, that's it. Let go. Let go. The moment that you let go, right, boom, our relationship has changed. I'm still there, right? You can see me on the other side of the pit. I can't make a thought go away like that. And in fact, if you try to push a thought away, you only get more. You know what I'm saying? No, right there, right? I've just kind of let go of that rope and now our relationship has changed and I'm able to start moving towards things that, right, are important to me again, right? That is the goal. And I'll tell you right now, that sounds all nice and wonderful, right? But let's be honest. The moment that you drop that rope, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick that motherfucker up. I'm going to throw it right back at you, right? And you're going to pick it up. And the next thing you know, we're sitting there right in that same battle. Here we go, man. Here's what happens right here. What do I need to do in this situation?
Let go again.
Here we go. This is the pattern that I have to be able to do right here, right? My goal is not to ever pick up the rope. That's impossible. That's perfection. It doesn't work that way. Thoughts get to pop up whenever they want to. My goal is to recognize that I picked up that rope as quick as I can and put that motherfucker down so I can start grabbing my balloon. I haven't taught you about the balloon yet. I'll teach that to you next, right? And engaging in places that are actually helpful to me, right? So letting go and starting to develop, I always get everybody to think of it as kindness, right? And when I'm talking kindness, I'm not talking like roses and butterflies and chewing bubble gum and shit like that. I'm talking about, hey, I recognize how my brain works. I don't like it. In fact, I'll even go as far as saying I hate this shit right here, and I get it, which allows me to let it go so much quicker and reset and focus on things that are actually of value to me. So that's that next step. After you've recognized that you're starting to hit some of those negative radio stations and you're starting to hold on to the rope, that's our goal, is how quick can we let that shit go, especially when it's not helpful to us, right?
Okay. Heck yeah. Tell me about this balloon. Yeah, 100%. That makes sense. Tell me about this balloon.
Okay. So then the balloon comes into play, right? Because the balloon is associated with focus. And if you haven't I love ACT because it's full of metaphors that help me understand shit, man. It makes it so much easier for everybody else to understand with me, right? When I'm sitting here talking, rather than talking super clinical.
That's what makes you good at it. Hell yeah.
My guy. Okay, so the balloon. I am sitting here, and when I am focused on something that I want to be focused on, it's like I have this balloon. I always get people to imagine I'm sitting here holding a balloon, right, on a string, and boom, it's right here. I tell everybody, my balloon is red. Make your own shit, dude. Don't steal my shit, right? Here it is. I've got my balloon. So when I have it, it means I'm present with what I want to be present with. And right now, it's just you guys. You know what I'm saying? I just want to be present with you here. But let's say, I mean, you probably heard, I hear my dog going crazy, or I got a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old down there that I know are about to go nuts, right? And all of a sudden, right, I'm starting to think about them and what the hell is going down there, right? And that's no longer present with you. And when that happens, boom, it's like I've let go of my balloon. And when you let go of a balloon, what happens to it?
Floats away. My
guy, right? That's it. My goal is to recognize when I've let that thing go, grab it, and bring that thing back. Right. Yeah. And that is something that absolutely can be trained, right? You can strengthen the muscles in your brain associated with focus and engagement through working some of these exercises of recognizing when I have my shit, when I've lost it, and then being able to grab it and bring it back. Right. I'll even give you a challenge. The first way I challenge everybody to do this for the first time, it's taking a mindful shower. Right. That's what it's called. Think about the shower, right? We get into the shower, and what kind of stuff do we start thinking about? Look, you are right. You know what I'm saying?
Anything and everything, baby.
Dude.
Anything and everything,
right? I'm thinking about what I got to do. I'm dwelling on what I did. What's going to be happening this way, right? I'm all over the place, right? Usually we're thinking about everything except what?
Showering.
My guy, there it is. There it is. So here's how I'm going to challenge you to go experience this, right? I challenge you to take a timer, like 2 minutes, man. And your goal is to go into that shower and see, can I sit in here and keep my balloon with me and focus on the dude, it's crazy too. And I'll tell you right now, you already can't do it. That is
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
what
yeah.
your goal is when you go in there, right? That's perfection. We're not going for that shit. Your
Yeah.
goal is to sit there and notice when you've lost it so you can bring it back. And
That's hilarious.
I'll throw one more thing at you, right? The way you're going to support yourself by keeping your balloon a little bit longer, you're going to start using your senses, man. You're going to start noticing your body, right? Because I will always win this bet. I will take all of your money. Your body will always be now. It'll never be in the past. It'll never be in the future, right? That's why it's going to start to become this wonderful tool that we use to reset ourselves and engage, right, in a place that's helpful to us. So your challenge is, right, go into that shower, feel your feet on the floor, feel the shower head as you go turn it on, hear the water as it starts coming out of the shower head right here, feel it as it goes from cold to hot. Notice the water as it's starting to go down the drain. Look at your shampoo bottles and soaps. I tell everybody, smell that shit, right? It smells wonderful. And if it doesn't, you're using the wrong soaps, and I will send you good smelling soaps. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Notice, right? Everything that's happening. Notice how your body feels, right? If you are doing those things, you are present, right? You are actually engaged in the shower and what you are doing. But what's going to happen to you when you go do this, right? You're going to go to take that shower. You're feeling your feet. You're noticing the water. You go look at your soaps. You smell your soap and you go, damn, Micah was right. My soap smells incredible. Well, what just happened to you right there? And all of a sudden you're thinking about me, right? My God, you
Yeah.
lost that shit. And that's the goal. How quick can you recognize it and bring that shit right back to what's happening in the shower?
Yeah.
Micah,
Okay.
you're funny, man. You're hitting it spot on. Literally, as you were explaining the balloon example, I just had a heavy wrestling practice right before this. As
Yeah.
soon as you're talking about the balloon, my hamstring started to cramp. Right? I had to think about that.
There
And
we
then
go. There we
I
go.
moved a little bit, I stretched it out, and I was like, oh shit, better grab back the balloon, get into this conversation again.
That's it, man. That's it. You're
fucking
not it when
awesome,
you
man.
lost. You just strengthened your mind, man. You did. I call them mental curls, man, right? The
Hey,
moment
there
that
it
you lose
is.
it, you bring it back, you got it in right there, right? If you
Oh
already know,
man.
if we're trying to get big biceps, we're going to go down and grab those dumbbells. We're not going to do one curl, stop, say I'm fucking huge and never have to curl again, right? I
Real.
wish.
Yeah.
But you got to sit in there and you got to rep that shit out. And that's what you just did.
My man.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I got a question here, and it's kind of centered less around like elite sport and maybe not for the UFC. So I also coach a high school team, and Austin
Yeah.
has assisted with a high school team of wrestlers.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've noticed is like my job as a coach is almost to put them through adversity, right? Like I want to put them through challenges, make them better, give them hard reps, and then come back on the other side. A unique problem that I ran into this year is a lot of my kids kind of shied from that challenge. They quit the team. They had excuses. They had this and that. And I don't know necessarily in your paradigm where that fits. I was thinking about it when we're playing tug of war. Like it seems like they just refuse to catch the rope, you know? And
Yeah, it could be, or they refuse to let it go, right?
yeah,
That's
that
where it
might be
would be
more
right
true.
you
Yeah,
right
that's
there,
probably more
right?
true. Yeah.
I would also throw this at you. The last part, right? Like after you grab your balloon, right?
Yeah.
It's if you just grab your balloon and you stay present focused on the present moment, right?
Right.
You're not really doing anything. You know what I'm saying? That's where the value portion comes into play. That's where you got to understand, right? What's important to you and what am I actually moving towards? So
Right.
when you were kind of throwing that at me, that's where my mind immediately went was on your athletes and what were their values? What were they actually hooked to that they weren't letting go that would give you, right, the feedback that you need? Because yeah, you also know how unique your individual athletes are and where
Yeah.
a tougher approach might be beneficial for some, others might need the validation approach, right? And a little
Yeah.
more
100%.
support as they go through it. So the place I would start there is individual values of everybody that was on the team.
No, that's super interesting and helpful in a sense because I know where we're going is going to be a better place. It's going to be a more positive place, right? I have all these predetermined values that I've experienced in my life. I've helped other people experience, right? I know going through your high school wrestling is going to be super hard, right? But you're
Yeah.
also, I know I'm going to make you a better wrestler, and I know I'm going to prepare you better for life's challenges, right?
Yep.
And so it might have been a lack of that value or see, because you're in high school, you're not fucking thinking about any of that shit, right? Like that's the last thing on my mind
Yep.
when I'm in high school, right? And
Yep.
so
Yep.
I'm trying to think how there's a better way to communicate that, but that's a different conversation, right? So
Yeah.
but that's interesting. That helps me understand within this context of maybe where somebody else's psychology is, and like the empathy that can come with that as a coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, yes, and wrestling is super hard, man. I'll come. I mean,
Yeah.
you know the stuff you guys don't go through. I see the shit that goes down. Man. Like everybody, oh, we got to wrestle today. Oh, damn, right? Like we know what's happening right here. So for them, my goal for them is to help them bring their balloon to something that's actually helpful, rather than
Yeah.
the fact that I'm gonna sit here and it's gonna be miserable. I'm gonna push myself to the edge. I'm gonna be fucking tired as hell, right? Like
Yeah.
none of that is going to be helpful to me. In fact, that's fears, flaws, and failures right there. If you really go in there and break it down, compared to resetting in that moment and focusing on my single leg, focusing on my whizzer, whatever it is that I'm sitting there trying to engage with in that moment. And when I'm
Yeah.
engaged, that's how you make that hard moment go by so much quicker. If I'm cutting weight, if I'm right, whatever I'm doing, there are so many different ways to engage to take some of those tough moments and make them a little easier to handle.
No, I love that, and I love that, and I think of the both the balloon analogy and the letting go of the rope is like our team kind of motto or slogan this year is like win the moment, win the next moment, win the next moment,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
that's in itself a practice in letting go, right? Because
Yes.
bad shit's gonna happen, like you said. Perfection is out the window.
You don't have a
So,
choice. You're going to get touched, man. You're going to get touched. It's
yeah,
what it is, right? Like,
yeah,
so not only is it small moments, but if I'm going to take a fighter and we're going to get in the mindset that we need for just the fight, right? Because everything is
yeah,
small moments. We kind of notice what we need as we go along that way. But if we're specifically talking about the fight, you're going to know first of all, your routine to help you let shit go and reset as you are entering that cage right there. Then as you get into the cage, you're going to know how to bring your balloon to the value that you want as that fight starts, which might be my jab, right? Spatial awareness. I want to push the pace right here. I want to make sure I'm aggressive and I'm not sitting back, right? Like we know where that small moment is, and then we go. Then we're adjusting small moments, right, as that first
mhm,
round goes. As soon as that round is done, you need to come back. You need to recover the right way using your diaphragm, right? Get oxygen to that brain so you can actually hear your coach, and then it's boom, reset. Fuck round one. That shit's over. I don't care about round three. What am I resetting to, and where am I bringing my balloon to for this next moment? And boom, we go again. And it's the next
yeah,
small moment. And
I
then we're
love it.
just continuing to reset, repeat as that thing evolves. It's not one big thing. It's those small moments. I couldn't agree more with you. And you've
Yeah,
got to win as many of them as you can.
I love that.
So,
I love that.
so Alex brought up a good point talking about like his high school team with mental toughness. Mental toughness is a word that gets used all the
Oh
time
my god,
in
yeah.
combat sports, right?
Everywhere, man.
And,
Yeah,
and
Yes, it
to a
does.
point where it's almost like it's used too much, like we talked about, and it's shit on from a sense. But to a point, you do need to be met. Like for MMA in particular, you
Yes.
got to be able to trust that you can push through the hard shit.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I've found more often than not, like the guys that can work on both ends of the spectrum are extremely successful, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
in order to be able to work on, in at least with the athletes I've worked with, on the higher level skills of mental performance, they have to know that they're tough first.
Sure.
Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like
Um,
confidence. It's like courage right there. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And that's kind of what I want to ask is like how much of in your experience, in your I guess expert opinion, how much like mental toughness is needed? It's not a quantifiable metric, but like is there mental toughness needed to be trained outside of the skills, or is it
No.
more or less
Yeah.
okay? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was
No.
asking. That's really what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get at, right? Because I feel
Yeah.
Yeah.
like so many people like think about like you're at the PI, so you see wrestling practices, right? Think about a wrestling practice at the end, right?
Yeah.
When they're running, we'll say they're running 15 sprints. They're not doing it for conditioning because that's not how you condition. They're not doing it for the sport because they're not sprinters. So every
Yes.
coach ever is going to say it's going to make you mentally tough. It's going to make you strong. It's going to make you feel like you can get through. And
You can do hard
I've
things.
always
Yeah.
thought that exactly. It's the David Goggins. You
Yeah.
should be able to do hard shit if I ask you to do hard shit. And I've always thought it was kind of useless. Is it relatively from a like a scientific evidence-based practice side of things? not as
Yeah.
good as focusing on the performance side?
So I won't say it's useless, and it'll have, right, its definite
Yeah.
place, and
Right.
it's just completely different than actually, right, like using some of these skills to engage in places that are helpful to me, right? One
Yeah.
is education and really using the mental side, and the other is a lot more of like resiliency, right? And how much can I actually handle, right? And it's a big thing that I help my athletes kind of separate and differentiate, right? So they understand where one comes in play for the other. Like what is it? The hard 75, I believe it is, or the hard, have you guys heard
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that
yeah,
one?
yeah.
I have
You
3
75 hard.
athletes doing it right now.
It's a popular thing right now, right? Everybody's out there
Yeah.
trying to build
Yeah.
the mental resiliency. And I had somebody come to me and ask why they weren't feeling more present or more confident, and we had to just kind of talk about like what you're doing is super helpful to you, but within this arena, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
you're looking for something that's in the wrong place, and this is what I need you to do to actually get the stuff that you were talking about. So super helpful. And yes, like the mainstream of it has kind of taken it right to
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other places. Same thing with, right,
I
like
that's
once you hear
that's
the
what I
word
fucking
mind,
see.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude, for sure. Same
Mhm.
thing when you hear about mindfulness, right? Like
Yeah.
that has been taken completely in so many different directions, and we've gotten away from like the true aspect, at least that I need our athletes to do, right, of yo, this is what being present means, right? So
Yeah.
similar within that.
Got you. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that is
yeah.
a hot button topic all the way through combat sports. It's just the mental toughness bullshit.
Because we have to be tough, man, right? How about
Yeah.
I love taking some of these stigmas away, right? Like if I don't do more than whoever I'm fighting, I'm gonna lose for sure. And I'll say,
Yeah.
that's the
This
worst
guy,
fucking
that
thing I've
guy's
ever
not
heard,
fuck.
man. It's the worst
That
fucking
guy's
thing
not fucking
I've ever
sleeping.
heard.
I can't sleep.
ah,
Oh,
come
God.
on, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has perfect nutrition except for me. What is happening? No, they. What are we talking about, man? What are we talking about,
Bro,
right?
I saw him eating a
Yeah.
pizza the other day.
Come
Yeah.
on,
Heck yeah.
man. Come
Heck
on,
yeah.
right? No, I love it. I love it. But for sure, those are the things that pop up right there. And I'll never, there's lots of different roads to Rome, right? All
Yep.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything is helpful. I'll never shit on anything like along those lines. And I just want to promote the evidence based stuff because that's what
For
the
sure.
evidence says.
Yep.
So as a coach, right, on the front lines and talking to my athletes about mental performance, right? Because almost every really high quality coach I've been around or person or leader, right? They
Yeah.
have this thing. This coach is not just the technical coach. They're not just this. They're a leader, they're a mentor, they're
Yeah.
somebody more important to you, right? It's a coach, right? And
Yeah.
we've romanticized that to an extent, especially in my life, right? So
Yeah.
what are my first line kind of defenses, or how should I use my lived experience? I'm doing this, but like as I approach mental performance, as I approach some of this stuff, I'm definitely going to see a lot of stuff with using some of those stories with the balloon
Use
and
it.
the
Yeah.
the rope
Yeah.
and the tug of war thing. But like, what's my role in that, right? If I'm a skills coach, how
Yeah.
well can I address? Do I refer out often? Do I trust myself in my process? Like, I guess, what's a good mix there that you've experienced?
Yeah, well, definitely finding a good referral source, right? Or knowing
Yeah.
who you're going to work with. That's key, man, because yes, I need you to throw out some of these words, right? And be able to
Yeah.
use some of these skills while knowing your boundary of staying in your lane in case it turns into something bigger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then you
Yeah.
want
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody qualified to be able to have your back and kind of help you along those roads. The biggest ones, especially like when I find myself in a role where I actually get to like coach and be trying to lead some of these skills, my biggest
Mhm.
stuff is reminding them about just being consistent. You're not supposed to be perfect, right? Like validating them that we are going to make mistakes. And it doesn't matter. It's how quick can we get back to, right? The thing that matters most to us or whatever our value is going to be right there. So my
Yeah.
job, especially in the moment, right? I'm not going to be as thoughtful with you. I'm just going to help you reset. Hey, let's reset. You got this. Let's focus on the next thing right here. This is the only thing that matters. I want
Mhm.
this, whatever it is, right? We're just kind of coming right back here because chances are, right, whatever happened has caused them to be everywhere but listening to you. You know what I'm
Love
saying?
it.
So
Yeah.
you've got to be able to grab them and bring them back. And then one thing that's super helpful is creating these things called anchor points, right? And they're
Mhm.
just visual or verbal reminders that help you grab your balloon and come right back to this moment, right? And focus again on the things you can't control. So as a coach, it's a wonderful thing that we can use when we see our athletes maybe mentally aren't there, or right, they're just doing shit that is not lining up with the game plan that we should be doing. You're able to throw something like that out there, help them reset and get right back to where they need to go. So I mean, all my fighters have their own words and visual anchor points that are everywhere to help them do that.
Is a small question, isn't a physical action, is that a good anchor point? Right?
Yes.
I have a wrestler that definitely gets in his own head and things like this. And one of the things we worked on is every break in the match, big breath, let it go. Right? Can that work as a good anchor point?
So I would actually put more as a skill, right?
Okay.
Where I would see the physical anchor point would come to play. Let's say we had a grappling exchange and then we separate, right? That moment of separation where you feel yourself in the balls of your feet as you've been practicing that, boom, that turns into a reset. And then you're able to go right towards the next thing you want to go towards. Or I have some people that like to touch their body, some people, depending on the sport, noticing things they're wearing. So yes, it can be physical. What you just described is a routine that I would want them to do pre and post if they're feeling right, some sort of stress, whatever's going on, where they're going to breathe. And we were kind of talking about it earlier. So many people love breathing skills and they have no clue how to actually breathe the right way or even what their diaphragm is. You know what I'm saying?
You're speaking Austin's language, bro.
I'm a big breathing guy.
Man.
I get it. Yeah.
Man. You know what's up, right? We're sitting here trying to catch these moments and right, I'm going to teach you box breathing is just a general one that I need you to use for stress, right? And then when we're talking about a mental reset, I just need you to know how to take a quick diaphragmatic breath. Like I can't tell you how many times we've gone and sat somebody in the corner and had them have their polar on, right, just to see what their heart rate is in between rounds, and they think they're dropping out of that red zone, and they're not anywhere close. Like they
dropped like 8 beats in 40 seconds.
They got no idea, man. You already know what's up. So we sit there, we start teaching them about the diaphragm, right, and they start really recovering in there, and they see that thing dropping 40, 50, 60 beats, and they're like, holy shit, right? Like, you got this Lamborghini body that you built. You might as well use it and recover right there, right? Get some oxygen to your brain so you can hear your coach, which is also something we educate the coaches on, right? Like, please don't yell at them right as soon as they get in because they can't hear you anyways. Like, give them a chance, right, to breathe and recover, and then you can have at them. Then you can start going down the road that you want. So, that routine piece is huge there. And notice your guy right there, he needs to not only breathe, but then let go of the rope, get himself present, and grab that balloon with whatever is next that he can control. And now all of a sudden, he's shortened everything up and he's focusing on a value rather than whatever those rope grabbing thoughts were that led to him needing to breathe in the first place.
Oh, man. Yes.
So when do you, because I'm thinking about it from like an attentional focus standpoint, right? Like, we don't want to take up too many slices of the pizza when we're in the middle of a fight or in the middle of a match or whatever. When do you train these things so that it goes from taking up 2 slices of pizza to taking up 1 slice of pizza? Is it every day?
Yeah. No. So, well, it depends on what the skill is and where you're at in the process. So if I'm just getting you in the very beginning, absolutely. I'm going to challenge you to go take a mindful shower for the first week and just kind of notice it, right? Start using our skills. But once you've actually learned the skill set, then I tell them all the time, man, you are in the same position I am now of consistency, right? Can we continue to use these skills and keep them sharp so we are actually getting the most out of our performance rather than letting them go stale, right, and not being able to use them? There's actually a good metaphor I use for that one. It's the bike metaphor, right? The bike factory, where I get people to start imagining that there is a bicycle factory that's 2 stories, right? And on the first floor right there, that is where they make all the bikes, right? That's the assembly line where there's a bunch of different machines and they're making different parts of the bikes, right? And they put it all together. And in this moment, right, what's happening at the factory is the bikes are all fucked up, right? The machines are all broken. So the bike frame is bent, right? The handlebars are backwards, tires are flat, right? You don't want to ride this thing. You can't sell it. That is what's going on so far on the first floor of this factory, right? Then on the second floor of the factory, I always like to imagine that that's the manager's office, right? And there's like a big glass window. If you ever saw original Jumanji, that's what I always think about, right? I'm looking down the shoe factory and all that shit. That's what I'm thinking about right here. So, right, that's number 2. And we've got the manager up there, right? And the manager usually is whoever I'm working with, right? No, not usually, always is whoever I'm working with or whoever I'm telling this metaphor to, right? So manager's up there, he's looking down and he sees that these bikes are all fucked up, man. They're not coming out the way that he wants them to come out. So he runs down to that first machine, boom, fixes that machine. And now, right, the handlebars that were on backwards, now they're on the right way. Manager runs upstairs, goes down, looks at the next machine, boom, fixes that one. Now the bike frame that was bent, that thing's coming out wonderfully now, right? He does this over and over and over again until bam, all those machines are fixed and these bikes are coming out beautifully. You can ride them, you can sell them, take photos of them, whatever you want to do with them, right? You got your shit flowing right now. You are money right now, right? So the manager goes back up to that second floor. He looks down, he sees, there's not a lot of shit to fix right now, right? So I like to imagine there's also a big ass TV in the manager's office, right? A nice little couch, PS5, right? Whatever. And I always know, right, what people's shit is, and I throw it in the office with them right over there, right? And then here we go, right? Manager now is getting sucked into, right, all that other stuff that's going on, and they are not just checking on their machines anymore. So eventually, bam, that first machine that the manager fixed breaks, but he doesn't catch it. Now, right, the bikes are not coming out right the same way that they were. And then the next machine breaks and the next machine breaks until those bikes are coming out just like they did at the beginning of that story right there, right? And that usually hits pretty hard right there in terms they recognize, oh shit, all right, I'm the manager and you're sitting here talking to me about consistency and I got to make sure I continue to tend to my machine so my bikes are coming out in the best way possible. And that's exactly where once they've learned the skill set and they know how to use them, you're in the same place as me, bro. We're humans. We're sitting here trying to make sure we're using our skills so we're able to perform and then just continue to move towards the shit that's important to us. So that bicycle factory right there, huge. And especially with, right, starting to create consistency and find our pizza slices and go down that road.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was leading into my next question. Like there's your forever game, right? Like I like to say that in the weight room, like when you're lifting weights or when we're doing strength and conditioning, we're in camp, we're out of camp, whatever, like you're never done in the weight room. There's never like, okay, did it, check, never have to go back, right? You know, you have to come back and maintain those physical attributes. We have to revisit this thing. And now your back's starting to act up again. Okay, we got to revisit our breath work and stuff like this, right? So there's always something to come back to. And so I think that bike metaphor is like a perfect analogy because you're never done. You never check the box. I'm never out of fitness. I'm never out of mental performance. I'm never like,
let's go.
Done.
Dude,
let's go. We've done because
go ahead. Oh, I was going to say something completely random. I was going to say we've gone 52 minutes talking about sports psych and mental performance. We haven't talked about goal setting or visualization once.
I love how you brought up goal setting because that's what I was about to say right there, right? So when we do talk about that end game, we're sitting here and talking about the difference between values and goals, right? And I always get people to kind of sit there and recognize, man, values are something that you'll never achieve forever, right? They're not attainable like that. You pick whatever you want. Take the value of cardio and think about the best cardio you've ever had, right? And in that moment, you didn't tell yourself, fuck yeah, I got cardio. I'm never going to have to work on it again. It's always going to be here, right? We're going to go this. Doesn't work that way. So, right, it's making goal-oriented tasks that are going to help you move towards the values, right, that are most important to you. And that's how we keep our balloon present. When we lose that shit, we go right back to our task. You're not supposed to have that shit forever. How quick can I come back to, right, the things that are important to me? So, yeah, that's that huge part that always keeps stuff fresh, right? And like I have a bunch of people that are just flowing super nice right now. And I don't have to reinvent the wheel for them, but we have to notice what's going on in the moment, right? And then tend to the specific machine that is appropriate for that moment, right? That's kind of how we start flowing that way, and the goals are the things that help us do it. So so that part,
the goals are basically the roadmap along the way.
Let's go.
Okay.
Well, think about it like this: the values are going to be your roadmap. The goals are you actually walking, right? That'd be the difference of all three of us saying, yo, we want to go to Miami and we want to go kick it, but we're just sitting here talking about it the whole time. We're never actually moving towards that value, right? The moment you and I get on the computer together and we go book our tickets, all of a sudden we're walking a little bit. We're about to go get it down there in the 305, right? It's about to go down right there. So that's the difference, man. That's what I would have you notice, the difference of a value versus a goal.
Okay. Well, and then I kind of want to talk about, so what goes into, because visualizations obviously are a large thing. They're probably the most popular, at least for my athletes, the most popular way to dip their toes into the water of mental performance is
Yeah.
visualization. What goes into, if you could briefly describe, goes into a good visualization that's useful?
Good visualization. Okay, so I'm probably going to say things that you didn't think I was going to say on
I'm in,
visualization,
Please,
dude.
right?
please.
So
I
Yeah.
want to hear this. Yes.
visualization for this is just my own private taste right here,
Yeah.
but
100%.
visualization for me is not something that I like to use personally
Okay.
because, right, of when more often than not, when I have athletes visualizing, they come back into me and say, I can't get off of some of the shit that I was visualizing, right? Getting myself
Yeah.
knocked out, right? Noticing some of
Yeah.
the things that were happening right here, right? And they don't talk about it to like their coaches or the other athletes. But then when you come in, it's like, holy fuck, I don't want to do that again, right? That shit was brutal right there as I
Yep.
was going that way. So there is a place for it. Don't get me wrong, because there's a connection between the way we think and the way we feel and what we do. So if you are literally sitting in there and visualizing, right, the things that you want to do, it's absolutely going to make you feel better, right? And then
Yeah.
the things that you are going to do, it's connected. Don't get me wrong, there's a place for it. Just for my personal preference, if you don't know how to have psychological flexibility, then visualizing actually has been more of a challenge for me, right, than a
Yeah.
support. So
Right.
I like to keep it in mind. I like to keep people right within the right concept of, yo, it's okay if you notice yourself going in some of these other directions. Just bring yourself back to right
Yeah.
what you are actually trying to visualize in that moment.
Yeah,
Right.
that's interesting. Go
Well, I
ahead.
was gonna say it's a tool, not the toolbox, right? It's so many
Thank you,
people
thanks, sir.
think that it's the toolbox. That's the only thing you can
The
do.
the only tool. I get
Yeah.
so many people who
Yeah.
want me to write them like a visualization script. I'm just like, fuck all that, man. I'm not trying to do
Why?
all
Yeah.
that,
Why?
right? I'm just trying to get
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are we
Oh
talking
man,
about? What are we talking about right
that's
here?
funny. I'm
That's
wondering,
me.
are you familiar? There's a book out there that I've attached to a lot of kind of my mental progress, and I don't think he's a psychologist by any means, but it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you heard of this book?
Of not giving a fuck. I've heard of it. I've
Yeah.
heard of it. People come at me a lot with that one right there. Yeah,
Okay, that's interesting. No, I
yeah,
find an analogy or a correlation between what you're saying, like with
yeah,
visualization and then like affirmations, right? Because like
yeah,
no super mentally healthy person says affirmations, right? Like when you're in your process, right, then you don't need to take the
yeah,
time to visualize. Like your visualization is just your current thoughts, right? And so
yeah.
that's kind of
Exactly.
how I see visualization a lot. It's like I'm going to try really hard, but then end up like reinforcing that I'm not that, you know?
It, it's the negativity bias in the brain. That's watching film when you're just trying to collect data, right? And all of a sudden, I'm just noticing all the crazy ways that I could get knocked out by this motherfucker right here, right? And I'm not actually bringing
Yeah.
myself to a helpful place. And yeah, same thing with mantras and all that stuff. It's all wonderful. I will not. I don't want it to make it sound like I'm hating on any of those things, right? In fact, the
Sure.
mantra to me is more helpful because it's a verbal anchor point that's just going to help, right, try to bring you back to something that's helpful to you right there.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
I it's definitely helpful, right, within that aspect of stuff. You're just going to have to find out the individual stuff that the person you are working with likes. That's the other thing,
Right.
right? Like I throw every single thing at them because it's for them to decide what they like to latch to, right? And not my personal preference. So once I throw it in there, if they like it, that's the exact way we're going to roll with it. And we're going to go right moment to moment based on that.
And that's something we've said a million times on this podcast is like that's what makes you a chef right there. That's what makes you the expert in the field, right? Because what you're laying out for us are great tools, right? Essentially, you're like if we're gonna go with the cook and chef analogy, like you're telling us which are the highest level knives we can buy, what are the best dishes and ovens we could set up in our kitchen, right? And those are fucking
Yeah.
great for like me to go buy or me to steal some of
Yeah.
your stuff or whatever. But I'm not gonna
Yes.
pretend to be a chef just because I have that shit, right? And that's
Let's go.
I think that's a huge piece of this. Like I can cook a little bit now, right? I can be in my process with my athletes and coach and I can help them, like, okay, you're not present, grab that balloon back, right? Like that's
Let's
something
go.
that's
Yes.
absolutely within my tools and skill set and things. But like, then I have to have that ego checker, that realization. Okay, shit. Now I need to refer out to find
Not good enough
somebody
to
Here we
else.
go.
freestyle yet.
Yeah, that's
This is
exactly.
it, right? Right. Right. That's it, man. We got to stay
Yeah.
in that lane.
You ain't the guy going
Totally
like
with
this
you.
and throwing different spices in.
Did you see that guy? I love him.
Yeah, bro. I went to his restaurant. Overhyped. Fucking overhyped.
Was it
not as
as
good as you think it was?
Ah,
yeah. It was
bigger
fine.
question though, did you put it on Instagram? I
No,
mean, did it even count? All right.
All right. Micah, as we start to wrap this thing up, we always ask everybody 3 questions. First question is, are there any books, TV shows, resources that you recommend to athletes or coaches to get better on the mental performance side?
So I immediately, the one book, if I could just have everybody read one book, it would be The Confidence Gap from Russ Harris, right? That includes some of the radio stations. It's ACT-based, right? We're sitting here talking about evidence-based practices. It is the book that you need to go get because it helps you understand the skills that we just laid out and how to execute them a little bit, right? Like it is a solid book that I definitely recommend for everyone.
Heck yeah. I just wrote that down real quick. Number 2 is so everybody's got a superpower, right? There's a reason why we asked you on here. If you had to put your superpower down, what would it be?
We ask the strength coaches what are their best lifts in that superpower. So if you want to say your best lift, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Bro, before I had all this stuff, I was benching 355. I got it up 4 times. So
that's
boy.
Pretty good,
boys. I was feeling pretty good. So I got that one right there. I will tell you, bro, I think my superpower, honestly, I just got a big heart, man. I'm just trying to be kind, right, to my people and take care of everybody that's out there. So if I had to have a superpower, I care, man. I genuinely care.
That's it.
Heck yeah. That's a good superpower to have. That's what people care about.
Yeah, for sure. Right?
Yeah. And then last one is, so obviously you haven't listened to all the episodes, but if you could give 1 or 2 names, who do you think we should ask to be on the podcast next?
Ooh, good question. Well, I mean, I'm biased, so I tell you to throw my partner out there, Heather, right, and get some of her crazy ass stories that you have out there. So I know you talked to Gavin.
Yeah.
Definitely have you read. I mean, you could literally pick any name out of the Performance Institute because they are so good at what they do and they know how to stay within those lanes. So if you haven't hit like Roman or Heather or Charles or Duncan, right, or Forrest, like you got to talk to some of these guys because within their lane, they're going to blow you away with what they do.
Fuck yeah. I love it.
Man. Oh, yeah.
All right. So as we close up, so for the listeners, if you guys got to get in touch with us, all of our information is in the show note. Micah, if people got to get in touch with you, where should they try to reach out to you?
Oh, good question. So I would have you, since I do so much, the easiest way, you could email me through my website at MBS, M as in Micah, B as in boy, S as in Sam, PLLC.com. Right. And right through there, right when you get to the website, you'll be able to email me directly and it'll go straight to me and I'll be able to handle everything from there. So
great.
Micah at mbspllc.com.
We'll link that in the show notes as well.
100%.
Let's go.
For the listeners, if you guys are looking for any sort of strength conditioning programming, we have our preset options, we have our membership options, we have our custom options, and then if you're a gym owner, we also have our white label fitness option that can help you make your weight room profitable because we know most jiu-jitsu gyms have 3 squat racks sitting in the back with a lot of dust on them. So you want to start making money off that equipment you already bought, hit us up. We have programs to help you out. And as always, this is Dr. Austin Shane.
Alex Friedman.
And
Micah Schnurstein.
And we are out.